Hey guys, welcome back. This week we're going to talk about the animus, what it is, how to incorporate it if you're a woman, and how to develop it if you're a man. Last week we did anima integration. If you're a man, how to incorporate your animus. So this week we're going to do the inverse or converse, the opposite, how to incorporate your animus if you're a woman, and how to really develop it if you're a man. Animus empire, right? Let's get into it. There's a specific reason why I picked that word, not because it just sounds cool, although it does. I think this is really important for women because I think women have a difficult time just being manipulated by men. Men are manipulated by women, but specifically if we're talking about animus, a woman having a difficult time being manipulated by a man, just going along with what he says, maybe being in a relationship with a man who you don't want, and you realize, well, how did I get here? What's going on? The reason is animus integration, specifically your lack of it. I know this may seem, I'm sorry this is triggering, but if a woman has a problem, it could be that she has lacking psychological development. And I think many of my female clients, I think the reason why they came to me initially, not just me, but reached out to other therapy, is they do go to therapy and they just get validated. And it feels good to be validated, and, oh, your boyfriend cheated on you, oh, he's a jerk, you're the victim, that's the implication. And that kind of feels good, I guess, but also maybe you could be doing something differently. Not that validation isn't important, but we need to look at our emotions from a different perspective. I think this may give us a clue into what animus integration is. So first of all, what is the animus? Well, like the anima, the female soul, that's a part of the man. The animus is the male soul. Specifically, when we talk about it as that part of the woman that she needs to incorporate. If she doesn't, she really can't have a healthy relationship or go on to do that with a man. Women and men too. But, of course, men are predominantly animus, but women have just an idea of what a man is, or specifically, what an attractive man is and what that attractive man can do for their life. It's an archetype. It's not so much an idea, but just a pattern of behavior or a way of differentiating reality in a way that's going to be more helpful for you as a human, specifically a human female. Like that now famous study of, you take the ducklings raised in captivity, right, never been in the wild, and you fly a shape over them, and the shape is short neck, long tail. Hawk. The ducklings, even though they've never seen a hawk, and even though that's actually not a hawk, they start to scurry, they scatter. Now then you take a shape that's long neck, short tail, another duck, or maybe it's with goslings. Well, either way, duck, goose. Fly the shape of another duck over them, and they're totally calm, right? This is archetypal, and I think similarly you saw, I wasn't around, of course, but you hear that Rhett Butler in Gone with the Wind, he comes on the screen, and women for the first time, at least on a popular level, they start to swoon. Did they have to learn that Rhett Butler is attractive? Did somebody have to teach them that? Okay, this guy is attractive. He incorporates certain aspects that are going to be more attractive, that indicate his fitness level. This all makes sense, way more sense now with evolutionary psychology. But when Jung started talking about these ideas, it really did. And he was really a forerunner in this field. And a woman didn't have to learn that. Right? It just like this lock and key. Same thing with the anima integration I was talking about last week. He just shows up on the screen, and it's about how he looks too. That has something to do with it, maybe how he dresses, but I think a lot of it is just attitude, communication style, his general presence. I think that's really more important. So how do we get women to the place where they don't swoon so hard? Swooning's good. That's part of it, but you still want to be in control of your life and be able to discern and choose a mate, to be able to choose a guy who's going to be good for you. And also, this is going to be very helpful for men. How do you develop your animus? You're predominantly animus. You don't have to incorporate anything, but how do you develop it so you can maybe be more like Rhett Butler, or whatever your version of Rhett Butler is? I'm not sure how well that'll work for you to show up exactly like Rhett Butler. It'd probably work better than what most guys do. So how do you develop that? So you can maybe have more of that kind of effect, more so of that effect on women. Well, let's first look at symptoms of poor animus integration. So the one that Jung keyed in on. So what was the symptom, the main symptom of a poor anima integration in a man? It's moodiness. So similarly with a woman, poor animus integration is a woman who's opinionated. Are we saying that it's wrong for a woman to have an opinion? No. But opinionated, right? That's not having an opinion. It's having an opinion for the sake of having an opinion. You can tell somebody's opinionated if they give their opinion on something and you ask them why they believe that, and they get upset with you. That is opinionated, not having an opinion. And why would a woman be opinionated? Well, ultimately what she's trying to do is she's trying to protect herself. I mean, she must feel vulnerable. I can only imagine what it feels like to be a woman, and it must be very scary. Like I always say, it's more scary to be a woman, more difficult to be a man, especially around breeding age. It must be really scary. She needs to protect herself. Now, the way to do that is develop your own masculine psychology so you can protect that femininity. You can protect that vulnerability without, adulterating it in any way. So you want to have opinions and other things women do, like dress like guys, maybe dress down, don't dress in the most flattering thing. Guys always say, oh, I want a woman who dresses more feminine and wears skirts. And it's like, dude, she's single. She's not going to do that. She's only going to do that when she feels protected by not having a man like beat up other guys for her. I mean, maybe that's part of it, part of the R complex, but really it's psychological protection. And then she can feel safer and wear skirts. Like, you're not going to find a woman who just enjoys wearing clothing that's going to make her feel way more vulnerable. It's like, yeah, why do women wear baseball caps? Well, because they're trying to protect themselves. Now, maybe that's not the healthiest way to do it. I'm not criticizing women for doing that. That's probably not the healthiest way, but you got to understand as a man what you're up against. If you're out looking for a girl, preferably a single girl, that's going to come later. If you can help her incorporate her animus. Okay, that may be an indication of one way a woman can incorporate her animus. But yeah, just dressing, like a guy. Acting more like a guy. I mean, this makes her feel safer. I'm not saying it's wrong for a woman to do this. We have the ultimate poor animus integration recently. And it's propped up in several movies, but most notably in Rey from Star Wars. I mean, the thing that we get confused about this character is that's not a female character. I mean, ostensibly maybe it is, but that's not really what's going on. This is a woman who acts like a man. This is a woman who has no real feminine traits whatsoever. We think we're like, oh, the new Star Wars, it's so new, it's about a woman. It's not. It's about a woman who's now acting like a man, but it's not about a woman or femininity or anything like that. And I think this is an indication of, also why women would have poor animus integration or want to act like men is because, we see, if I say that women are inherently more emotional, we think, oh, that's derogatory towards women. Well, why is that derogatory? Why is being logical automatically better than being emotional? First of all, I would say on a deeper level, we won't get into now, how are these two, or why do we see these two as competing ideas? They're not. The more emotional you are in a healthy way, the more logical you'll be. And the more logical you be, the more emotional you'll be, in a healthy way. But I think it's just really an indication of, I think there is misogyny. I know I made this point before. I think there is misogyny, not as what we typically think of as hatred of women, but really what it is hatred of female traits. So even when we prop up a woman in Star Wars, and look, we have a movie about a woman now, wow, we're so progressive. It's not. This is misogyny. Not the hatred of women so much, but the hatred of female traits. So yeah. So like with the inability to incorporate the anima, inability to incorporate the animus in a woman, you get, right, the Doc Bardens, the hat, the opinions for the sake of having an opinion. This is the persona. This is the false self. So how do you incorporate your animus if you're a woman? How do you do it in a healthier way? Well, the first step is really just recognize what's there. That it is there, and what you're doing when maybe you're wearing a backwards baseball cap and the Doc Martens and have an opinion for the sake of having an opinion. It's just as a realization of what you're doing. You feel vulnerable. You're trying to protect yourself. I'm not blaming you. But there's a way to do it in a healthier way. So the one way to do it in a healthier way is to challenge yourself. Challenge your emotions. And this is what women typically don't get in therapy. And it's why they have to come to guys like me. Look, I get that my ex-boyfriend's a jerk. This is what they say, but I'm sure I had some part in it, and the therapist I'm with is not helping. It's good to validate emotions, but if that's all you do, that's only one step. You gotta get perspective on emotions. That's a good indication of why I think Animus Empire is such a fitting name here, because that's what we're doing. You're showing what your emotions are. This is what they are. In addition, I want you to feel them, and I think having perspective on your emotions will allow you to feel them. So it's not anima versus animus, it's how to incorporate the both. Like a healthy relationship, a man and woman relationship coming together. 1 + 1 = 11. How do we get perspective on our emotions? How do I get perspective on what's going on? How do I challenge myself? Yeah, validate that feeling that you have. It may say nothing about reality, though, just because you have that feeling. It definitely says something about you. That's why it's good to validate it. But it may not say anything about reality. So yeah, put emotions in perspective. I tell men when they incorporate in their anima, listen to your intuitive nudges, act on them. I would say for women, listen to your intuitive nudges, but challenge it. Maybe that's not the right thing to do. And it's kind of it's the opposite for women. And ultimately, another thing to do. So men have when it comes to developing a boundary, men need to get really good at hearing no. And the more you challenge yourself, the more a woman puts her emotions in perspective, she can get better at saying no, right? Developing the real psychological protection for your femininity, for that feeling of vulnerability that you must have of being a young sexual creature out in the world. Must be very scary. Wear a baseball cap, great, but not at the expense of really developing your boundary. And a way for a woman to do that, especially when she's younger, is to get really good with the word no. Men need to get good at hearing no. Women get good at saying no. But ultimately, the only way for a woman to really develop incorporate her animus is to find it in another guy. Like a man to incorporate his anima needs to find it in another woman. A woman needs to find it in another guy, but not before she develops it more on her own. That's why it's good if you want to wear the Doc Martens and the baseball cap and go through that, dressing down. I get it. But all the while working on your own boundary, your own sense of identity. So then when you do meet a Rhett Butler kind of guy who really can have that effect on you, you're not overtaken by that. He still has the that romance, maybe that even lust. I mean, I think that's all really healthy, but we don't want that to control our lives. So the way to do that is to incorporate your own animus. But it's really good for men, because I do think it is that powerful. I do think this stuff, especially, it's archetypal, right? That this goes beyond social decorum, right? A guy shows up, he has a certain look about him for each woman, and it just works. And a lot of guys, I'm not a dating coach, but I think a lot of guys get wrapped up in ancillary details when it comes to dating, like hair this and style that. And yeah, that stuff matters. And of course it matters. Looks, obviously, money, it all matters. But I think there are a few things here that when you can really key into them, it really transcends social decorum. I talk about this in an old article. I don't know if it's still up. I should check it. But it's How to Be a Pig. And it's like kind of a joke, but it's like, well, it's just, you got to communicate to a certain part of woman. And a woman, by developing her own anima, of course, it's what she predominantly is, she can communicate to that part of a man. But yeah, this is, again, Taoism, Lao Tzu. This is not the yin and the yang, but this is the yang in the yin. Masculinity is something that, femininity, is something that needs to be protected, whereas masculinity is something that needs to be nurtured by the animus and anima, respectively. But this is what we do, right? We show exactly how to go through this process of anima and animus incorporation. It's not only perspective on emotions, but again, like I was saying, that perspective allows us to really delve in. The perspective of the animus allows us to delve in and really feel the emotion. So we get the best of both worlds. But I think this can only come from unifying emotions, how they relate to your boundary, like I mentioned, and how this whole process contributes to self-awareness. I think a unifying factor of your psychology. So that's what we deal with here. Your emotions, exactly how to talk about them, exactly what to talk about regarding them. really processing the emotions so you can go on to control your life as opposed to them controlling you. We do free consultations if you have any questions. animusempire.com/schedule, and I'll leave it there. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, tell one friend, and always remember that if you're a woman and you don't want to be manly, paradoxically, you need to incorporate your own masculinity.